This is Good Karma Wrestling. Welcome to another edition of GKW. I'm Gabe Neitzel from ESPN Milwaukee. With me, as always, Brian Rowitz from ESPN West Palm. And catch him on ESPN 1000 down in Chicago. And much like our guy, Freddie Prinze Jr., apparently J Hood is a Scooby-Dooby douche. That was a good pop last night. We'll get more to AEW, and look, there's one big story. We'll have a 3 count. We'll do all those other things. There's one big story. Mm-hmm. And it just continues to build and build and build. And it's the one thing that I have people in the ESPN Milwaukee office coming up to me, asking me about, and that is the return of Vincent Kennedy McMahon to the WWE. Just to quickly give the Cliff Notes version, after apparently saying he wanted to come back in December and the board unanimously rejecting him coming back, Vince decided to pull a power play because he still had voting power and enough voting power that he could be a thorn in WWE's side if they ever wanted to sell the company or during the next round of media negotiation rights. Now, those rights aren't up until September of 24, but typically those negotiations will start a little bit more than a year in advance to kind of extend them or do whatever. So those are expected to be, the negotiations would expected to be start this summer. So Vince says, well, if I'm not directly involved, then I'm not going to sign off on him. So he forces his way back onto the board. A few board members resign. And with the filing with the SEC, we find out it's because Vince forced his way back onto the board. He becomes unanimously approved as the chairman of the board. Nick Khan is still just the CEO, as Stephanie, Vince's daughter, steps down as chairwoman and CEO of the company. And now we get rumors flying rampantly about if WWE is going to be sold, who is going to be interested. Of course, a rumor, a couple of nights ago about how it was going to be the Saudi Arabian government and their economic arm that owns Live Golf. They were going to be potentially be buyers. Now they're still interested, but they're among the buyers. I think that's about, did I miss anything? I think that's the recap of everything that's been going on with Vince McMahon trying to force his way back into power. As of right now, Triple H is still in charge of creative, although who knows, that could change by the time we're done with this an hour from now. That's how quickly things are changing right now in the WWE. But with everything that's going on in the last 48 plus hours, how good do you feel about the future of the WWE right now?
I feel the same about the WWE at this point in time. But again, like you said, it could change in the next 24 to 48 hours. So just to put it in a capsule, Vince McMahon wanted to have his ball back. And that's the reason why that he's in the chairman of the board again. To be able to move heaven and earth and have people moved out of the board so he can bring his cronies in to be voted unanimously to be, once again, the chairman of the board is, I need my ball back. I want to point this out. It's something we haven't talked about in GKW. When it comes to Vince McMahon, guys, Vince McMahon, his only thing that he's done, that he does the best, is creative in his mind. That's the only thing he's done. When it comes to television deals, when it comes to anything else around the WWE, he's always had others to handle the finances of the WWE, other things. But the thing that Vince feels he specializes in most is creative. And so when we hear that there's going to be a sale, I don't know how much Vince McMahon is going to be really involved in this. He'll probably be there for the close. He'll be there to just say, if you need me, I'm here. But when it comes to brokering television deals and all the rest of that stuff or the finances, it's always been someone else. And in this case, it's Nick Khan. This is why Nick Khan is talking to Disney, talked to Bob Iger on Monday at the college football championship game with Georgia with their victory there. So the best thing he does, bro, is try to be able to handle creative. Even though people say, well, he's back, but he has nothing to do with creative. I just don't think that that's true. I really don't. I think that in this deal, if the company is sold, do not be surprised if there's something in the contract that says, yes, the company is sold to someone else, but I'm still the chairman of the board and I still have say. Don't be surprised if that's the case.
Yep, 100% agree. That's why when we talk about the future of the WWE, I don't feel great about it. And because of that, the reason why is because I saw how Vince was booking things. I saw how Vince ran a wrestling company over the last, say, 5 years. And it wasn't enjoyable for me. It wasn't something I wanted to watch on Mondays, wanted to watch on Fridays. It was a chore if I was watching a premium live event. And yes, this is all about ego. The reason he is back is so he can control that. So if it is sold to company X, he can say, hey, I'm still involved, as opposed to him being outside saying, hey, Disney's offering us the most money. They don't want you involved because it's Disney. We're going with that route. And him be like, oh, well, that sucks. Just cut me a check. No, this is all about ego. This is all about Vince McMahon. He is going to still be involved. And we said it the day it broke, the day we broke on and said, hey, Triple H is in control, how shocking it was. You know, we always thought Vince would not hand it over until he was dead. We're back there. Like, I don't think Vince will leave this company until he is dead at this point.
Well, and I think there's doubt about whether he sells the company at all, right? I think that this is just a whole song and dance in a show to put himself back in power. And eventually he kind of looks at some offers and goes, I'm not interested in selling it. I'm just going to keep running things. Like, I think that's still a real possibility. Now, the Saudi Arabian government thing and that, like, I still think that there's some potential truth to that, given their contract that pays them $50 million per show that they do over there and the relationship that they have with the financial arm of the Saudi government. Like, yeah, like that's not shocking that they would be interested in that, given what, again, Saudi dove in head first to put on a golf league this past summer that's going to be coming up with year 2 in the upcoming spring, summer, and then into the fall. So like this is something that they certainly would be interested in. They clearly have a relationship there with Vince based on this deal, but WWE, to me, would be an attractive thing to buy for Disney, for Fox, for NBC Universal. I mean, it is an attractive thing based on live sports and live events and the way that those things trend on television and having that library for the streaming wars and the streaming services that are out there. So it makes sense to me why it would be an attractive thing for any media company or whatever to buy. I still have serious doubts, though, on whether or not Vince is going to, at the end of the day, sell it.
Well, until we see it, then it's hard to believe. But all the reports say it's going to happen by the time we get to the middle of the year. We'll see about that. I guess there's a couple of things I'm thinking about. First of all, I've always thought that Vince was going to sell the company, but I never thought that he'd pull a power play to the point where his daughter leaves the company. So, see, that's what I'm hung up on, because Tuesday's breaking news is that Stephanie leaves. So I just need your help to try to figure out why. Did Stephanie McMahon resign? Go ahead.
Well, so because the backstory there, again, is interesting because she was with WWE. She was, I forget what her title was this past late spring into the summer was. No, not now. Before she resigned for the first time, when she stepped away to take that sabbatical before Vince resigned, and then she came back to be the co-CEO and chairwoman because she was away from WWE before that happened. She resigned last spring from whatever her marketing role was within WWE. She had already stepped back. And the timing of that was
always, it was May that she stepped away.
Yeah, so, chief marketing officer, the same role. Marketing officer. She had the same role that Brandy. She had the same role that Brandy Rhodes had in AEW.
So that was interesting just because it seemed like almost she knew that something was about to break with Vince, which obviously she did. So it made you wonder, is she actually taking a step away because of Hunter and his health issues and all these other things to kind of be around her family? Or is she stepping away because she doesn't want to be involved in that mess? And the fact that she resigned immediately after her dad came back, she was one of the people who rejected him coming back in December. I'm with you, Jay Hood. Something doesn't smell right there.
Well, I just want to figure this out, the three of us, of why that happened. Now, the number one thing would be, wait a minute now, the board told you, Vince, at the end of the year when you want to come back, they said no. It was a vote of no confidence. No, you can't come back. He forced his way back into the WWE because Vince has nothing else to do besides try to run WWE. I mean, he could have retired, 77 years old. All the reports is that he was dating different women and taking them to dinner. I guess he got bored with that, so he wants to come back to work. Fine. So Stephanie returns, and now she resigns. Did she resign because Vince didn't think that Stephanie and Triple H can pull off a television deal or could not pull off a sale? Did she feel that way? Did she feel also that I can't work here because my dad's back and my dad was told he can't come back, and all the controversy? And by the way, the lawsuits are still out there on Vince McMahon. Well, as far as allegations of rape and sexual assault, it's still out there,
and the board's alluding that there might be more coming.
Yeah, mate, watch the Wall Street Journal very closely. There'll be more stories coming. Did she do that? Why did she leave? Why did she leave? Because she could have stuck in there, but I really believe in my heart of hearts, that she felt like me and Triple H got this. If we're gonna go back to USA and Fox, we can handle this. But Vince said explicitly, nope, there will not be a television deal or a sale without my say as the chairman of the board. And I'm sure Stephanie had to be like, okay, so if I can't run this and you want to come back and run this, fine, I'm done.
Yeah, and that comes down to ego again, because the WWE is a company that will sell itself. You don't need a Vince McMahon. You don't need a Stephanie McMahon. Like, it is guaranteed programming that's going to draw you $1 to $2 million once a week, twice a week. That's set. Like, a TV network's going to eat that up, say, oh yeah, I'm involved. I want to be a part of that. But Vince and the ego is going to say, oh no, I'm going to do it, even if it doesn't mean the best for the company. Gabe mentioned the golf tour, the Live Golf Tour. They don't have a TV network. That probably has to do because of their relationship with Saudi Arabia. That might be to the WWE. If that's where they get sold, there's no guarantee the USA Network or Fox still wants to work with them a year from now. But I don't think Vince cares in that instance. If he's still able to run the company, it is all about ego. This is a company that would sell itself. They don't need a Vince McMahon.
Yeah, part of me also wonders, Jay Hood, if she just stepped away. So, she steps away, all the allegations come to light. Vince eventually gets pressured to step down, so she comes back. I wonder if she stepped away for the first time because she's like, hey, I cannot be seen supporting this, being around it. Yes, after her father retired and she went out on television and said, we love you, Vince. Thank you, Vince. I think you can still paint that as hey, I was pushing him out the door. I was trying to do it as cordially as I possibly could, run this company. Like, as a woman, I wonder if she thinks that she just cannot company while its chairperson and CEO is embroiled in all of this controversy and sexual assault allegations. I just don't think that she can be around there. Now, the interesting next shoe to me that's going to drop is what's going to happen with Triple H. Like, if Stephanie feels so strongly that she can't be involved with WWE, doesn't it make sense that her husband would then also follow suit? Otherwise, it's going to make for some awkward dinners at night.
I just don't believe that Vince is going to keep his hands off of creative. I just don't.
No, absolutely not.
I know that last weekend, it was a Thursday or Friday, there was a meeting with just the employees of the WWE, and it wasn't a Q&A. It wasn't a chit chat. It was a chit, because in that chit they just said, "Hey, listen, just so you know that." Nothing will change here, that Triple H will still be head of creative. And there was no questions that was posed after that was said. And so I really believe that that's that he wants to do. I think that Vince wants to be able to have his hands in the pie one more time. And then when it comes to Triple H, I'm sure he's looking over his shoulder saying, okay, I got this. But then at the same time, Vince is going to be lurking because he's the chairman. Remember, this is what he does. This is what he does. It's not like he's going to be flying from place to place, NBC Universal, Disney, Saudi Arabia, to sit down and broker a deal. That's not what Vince does. He's in Florida someplace, just probably on another date, just waiting to pick up the phone and find out, who's going to be a buyer and a suitor for his company.
I mean, he had no trouble cutting his own father out. Like, I don't think Triple H has to understand what's going to come. I mean, you mentioned creative out there. WrestleMania is a few months away. Like, this isn't the slow time for WWE. This is, their road to the Super Bowl. Who is booking WrestleMania, if you guys had to guess right now?
Vince.
I think it's Triple H, but Vince will look it over, I'm sure, and say, hey, pal, what are you doing? What are you doing for Mania? And I'm sure it's been talked about, and maybe nothing will change based on what Triple H has put together. But I think somewhere along the line, Vince will have something to say, because otherwise he's just chairman in name. He won't be doing anything. If he's not in creative, what is he doing? Seriously. Right. And the other thing too, we gotta point this out too, Gabe, because as we put a bow on this, from all the reports, the people that work in the WWE, the talent, are very concerned.
As they should be.
If you're Bray Wyatt, if you're Johnny Gargano, if you're Braun Strowman, hell, if you're William Regal, who just came back, like, you got to be uber concerned, right? Like, this is the dude that let you go. And a lot of those releases had to do with, there was always whispers that maybe Vince sells the company. And there was always a thought that when he did these mass releases and let go of 7, 8, 9, 10 wrestlers at a time, that it was, he's trying to company in a position so he can sell it, lucrative, more attractive to sell. He's cutting off some of the dead weight, trying to trim some of the fat off that roster. So to me, yes, everybody should be concerned. If I'm Sami Zayn, like there's no way if they sell it to Saudi, which again, if it actually happens, that's going to be like a 2-hour podcast because that gets complicated quickly. And the point that you just made, Brian, about American television companies, whether or not they want to deal with somebody that is that directly tied to the Saudi Arabian government. And oh, by the way, that government and that entity currently suing the PGA Tour, which is a major partner of NBC Universal with the PGA Tour that they put on. Like, you think their NBC Universal is just going to sign up and give you boatloads of cash? Like, it becomes tricky. It becomes very, very sticky, very fast. And Sami, where he refuses to go over there and perform, like, he's not going to work for WWE. Like, yep. and there are going to be more that follow him and be like, no, I don't want to work for these people.
Yeah. And I think to your point, Gabe, let's accentuate this even more so. You know, people hear us and say, oh, you know, the town must be concerned because they ran away from AEW or the Indies to come back to WWE because Stephanie and Triple H make it a great work environment. From all reports, they love working with Stephanie and Triple H. It's not about work rate. It's not about the job. It's about the ability to be cut at some point. Like Vince has done it before. If he's in charge again, trying to set up for a sale, lop off a third of NXT, lop off the people on WWE main event, lop off some of these guys on Raw, some of these new people. Like, what is she doing back here? Out of here, just so they can set up for the sale. Because he kept doing it. It seemed like, was it, bro? It's maybe twice a year we'd see these massive cuts.
Yep. So there'd always be like post-Mania and then like a random summer one also. And then like we've talked about it, like it's all BS where like they cite numbers and they're making millions and billions of dollars every year. So it really doesn't matter if you cut Braun Strowman. But like from a wrestling standpoint, when you look at it, like this is a pivotal fork in the road. Like if they go the Saudi route and there's no TV, like it might be the end of WWE as we know it. If they go the other way and there's no Vince, then all of a sudden it's a different world. And then the extra carrot being thrown around today, that Tony Khan and his family are somehow in the mix to possibly a potential buy. Like there's just so much in the air right now when like we should be focused on just fun pro wrestling. And it's not about that anymore. And the potential buyer of this company is going to impact how we watch wrestling moving forward.
I mean, the Khans, there's no chance. Now that it's public, like the only way, and yes, I'm sure that Tony's dad, who is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they own a Premier League soccer team too.
Fulham, I believe.
Yeah. So yes. Like they know enough people that they could put together a bid for the WWE if they wanted. However, they would have to do it. Like there's no way that actually going to sell to a company headed by the Khan family. Not going to happen.
Well, but Vince probably thinks they're related to Nick Khan, though, so they might be able to sneak in under the radar that way. Like he doesn't know at this point.
I can't wait. I can't wait for the Khans to buy WWE. And there's Tony Khan on the ramp. Guys, we got a great show. I cannot wait for this great show on this new Monday Night Raw. The main event, it's going to be Roman against MJF. We're going to have the Usos against FTR. We're going to have Gunther against Darby. We're going to have Bianca against Jade, all on Raw. The whole show, one show. It's like, wait, you mean like Dynamite when you give everything away? We're going to get it. Hey, you want those titles off of Roman? They'll take them off on Raw. When Tony Khan's owning the company, MJF will take the titles off of Roman.
On Honor Club.
Honor Club. On the weekly Honor Club TV show.
I can't wait for that. I can't wait to see Roman lose the championships on Raw with the Tony Khan booking. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be great.
Yeah, see, we're something to look forward to.
It is crazy to think about so many different possibilities. And the crazy part is I think it's going to happen relatively quick. Like I think we're going to know within a few months whether or not Vince is actually interested in selling this thing. Like it's going to come clear. But what do we have? Let's actually talk about fun wrestling things. The things that happen inside the squared circle, the things that happen every.
No, I had fun. I had fun thinking about Raw being on Lifetime channel. That's going to be great when they can't be on USA anymore. I just think about it. Raw on Vice because nobody else will take it.
Monday Night Raw interrupting the Hallmark Channel's Christmas movie marathon on a Monday in December.
What does Access TV have on Monday nights? Do they have the space?
Here we go. Here we go. Impact pissed off now.
Just had to wait. I mean, usually we don't make fun of Impact until the end of the show, but might as well do it at the end of the first block of the pod. What do we got in the 3 count this week, Brian?
All right, guys. January 11th, 1993 was the debut of Monday Night Raw. 30 years ago, we will see a 30th anniversary celebration next week, January 23rd in Philadelphia. So, guys, in wrestling standpoint, not considering everything else going on, what changes would you make to Monday Night Raw if you had the proverbial pencil in your hand?
I would out a way to make the 3 hours a little bit more palatable on television. You got to do something with that third hour. I don't know if it's, and I know they tried when Shane was around, they tried the Raw Underground, where it was a combination of, which again fell flat on its face, but I appreciated that they were willing to try something because, watching a 3-hour wrestling show where they recap the opening segment 17 times in that 3-hour span, like at the beginning of every segment. Well, if you missed the opening of Raw, here's what you missed. That gets a little tiresome from time to time. But the third hour is not going away. It makes them too much money, right? Like USA wants that third hour. USA can sell that third hour, so they're going to give the WWE money for that hour. So it's not going away anytime soon, despite it being a little tiresome. Just because even when it drops in the ratings, it's still fine for its time slot for that last hour. So I don't know if I actually have the main event at the end of the second hour and maybe have, some more developmental stuff in that third hour. I don't know, but I would try to figure out a way to differentiate maybe that third hour from the first 2.
I've been thinking about this for a long time. It's funny this question comes up for the 30th anniversary. I've been thinking about this for a long time. Guys, I really believe that Raw should be more like NFL, college football, and NBA coverage. Here's what I mean. At 8 o'clock Eastern and Pacific, that first half hour should be somewhat of a pregame show in which there's more interviews. You're going to get all your highlights anyway of what happened the night before, all this other stuff. But I would say that at 8:30 Eastern, that's when things should start really cooking. Because to me, that feels more like a 2.5-hour show than a 3-hour show. I was thinking about when, Burrows, you were talking about this a few weeks ago about WrestleMania Tampa. And we're in the pandemic, and it was just, they had bad rain. And then all of a sudden you go to the back, and then there's like Kevin Owens and Braun Strowman kind of shooting from the hip. Like there's no script. You're just kind of like, here, just talk.
They had to fill time.
It was fantastic, because it didn't sound like themselves. They sound like themselves and not scripted WWE superstars. I like to have a little of that in the first half hour, because we get used to this all the time with our games that we watch on Usual Sports, the NBA, the NFL, college football, where there's somewhat of a warm-up show, where there's a little bit, you find out information, and it gets you hyped for the game that you're going to watch. And I think that in the first half hour, that should be, because it's so formulaic. Even now under Triple H, it's the top of the hour. Here comes this long-ass promo to set up a main event that may or may not deliver at the end of the show. I mean, sometimes you'll get a match, but very rarely. It's always a talking segment. Well, since you're going to do that, then that first half hour, and you're not losing the audience, as long as you show some kind of action or you're setting it up. Now, if you set it up in the front end, then you don't need to have all these packages all throughout to be able to, I think that if you go from 8:30 Eastern to the end, it will feel more like AEW Dynamite than it does WWE Raw. Because the one thing, the formula for Raw for Dynamite is that you're going to action promo, action promo. And so I think that at least the broadcast would be faster that way if you got all the packages out of the way early and then move on with action throughout the show.
Yeah, I think the last month, 2 months has sort of shown that even Triple H can't handle the 3 hours. Like when he took over, everyone was so excited, like, wow, this is a lot of fun. We're getting a whole lot of wrestling. We're getting a 20, 30-minute match. And now it's at the point where it's like, well, I can't do this every week. So, hey, let's just throw Dolph out there to lose another match. Let's just do this. Let's have this rematch or this random tag match. And, we talk about just getting viewers. Like, I've always wondered if it's NXT. Like, give them 8 to 9. I know they're drawing a decent number on Tuesday. I would say it's respectable at this point. Like, it's at least 600,000 to 800,000 every week, which is pretty impressive. What if they were 8 to 9 to where it was his own standalone show? You could tease ahead to Raw the entire time, and then it's a 2-hour Raw, and you do it that way.
But then what do you do with the NXT on Tuesday nights? The problem is you've
Right.
sold NXT on Tuesday nights. It's its own 2-hour entity that USA's making money off of and the WWE's making money off of. I really like Jay Hood's idea.
Yeah.
Like, especially if they still had Renee, that would have been like her as the studio host. Like, I just think of how good that Talking Smack was with her and Bryan Danielson. And like when she was, but it got buried, right? Like he was either on the network or he was on late on Fox or the different iterations that they've had of that show. But if you take Talking Smack and if you have somebody who's good enough like Renee, Byron would be that guy right now since he's doing a lot of the backstage interviews on Raw, or kind of bring somebody in. Like if you brought back Adnan Virk, who fell flat on his face as the play-by-play guy, but obviously is passionate about wrestling. Like, you're telling me he couldn't do a half-hour studio show, like or studio-esque type show as the host? Like, I think that would be, if you bring in somebody from the outside that has a little bit of a name to kind of pump up that pregame type show, I could definitely get behind that.
And I think the other thing with the 3 hours that we've sort of realized, and I didn't realize, by the way, 2012 is when it made the flip. Like, it's been over a decade now of 3 hours, which is crazy. But, like, I feel like you don't get those moments anymore because it's such a chore, because you're trying to get through 3 hours. And I know there's always a nostalgia factor, and we're always tied to the Attitude Era. But, like, from the last 5 years, like, how many of those moments you're like, oh, remember when this happened on Raw? This guy won the title, or this surprise, like, those don't happen anymore. And it's because you're just trying to fill time. And even with that stuff, those of us watching, it's like, all right, let's just get this over with. Like, if not for DVR, like, I don't know how many people are watching 3 hours because you have the fast forward button.
Yeah, but then you turn on SmackDown or Dynamite or any other 2-hour show, and it just feels so like, oh crap, we got a lot of things to get in. We've only got 2 hours to do. We got to go boop, 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 boop. And like, again, if you watch SmackDown on a Friday night, like it goes by relatively quick because you can't have this rambling 20-minute promo at the top because you're just trying to fill time. I mean, when Seth Rollins was the champ, I swear to God, he filled the first half hour by himself with promos that went absolutely nowhere. I mean, tip of the cap to you, sir, for being able to say nothing for a half hour, but you're still somehow finding a way to time. But that's what to your point, that was kind of the formula. But when people have opportunities to have promos on SmackDown outside of Roman when he comes out, but even then he has to be more succinct. It's not like when he's on Raw because he's got a little bit more breathing time. So they got 3 hours to fill. Everything has to be a little more succinct, and it falls into line a little bit quicker on SmackDown.
Yeah, in the Vince era, having to memorize all those lines for those long promos in the first segment was brutal.
I mean, the other thing also that I feel like it's never mentioned anymore is, what about the brand split? Like, is Raw a better show if you're watching Monday to tease ahead to Friday to then tease back to Monday and just going in that circle? I know it's sort of a blurred line right now, but there are guys and girls that are, sticking on just one show every week.
Well, this is the best the brand split's been, right? Where it's pretty much true to form outside of Roman and the whole bloodline. Bloodline goes wherever they want to go, but it's actually
KO's kind of been following the last couple of weeks, like, because he's obviously the number one contender at this point, so he kind of shows up on both.
Yeah. This is actually good, bro. It's for the first time. I think that Triple H probably made that something that he wanted to make sure he did. And that is, okay, if it's going to be a brand split, Gunther, you can never leave SmackDown. But we talk
about the bloodline being the best thing in wrestling, and I think part of that is because we can watch them on both days. Like, we're going to watch on Monday, like, oh, they're doing this on Friday, or they're going to do something on Friday that's going to lead ahead to Monday. You don't get that. Like, yeah, Gunther, we know we're going to watch only on Friday, but then you don't need to watch Monday. So maybe if you had the whole roster there, maybe you could do something more.
You know what? The reason why that formula has to change is because as soon as the pyro goes off, it's like, we're at Raw, the show's on, we're live. It just takes the piss out of everything when you get a 20-minute talk segment. Right. Like you love to have action, and this is what AEW does well, or Rampage does well even, and that is you got action first. All right, we'll get the talk segment later, but you tuned in for wrestling. Let me give you wrestling first. And you know what? This is why I'm gonna have to stop being so hard on some of these cities that have Raw, because they're settled in and they're cheering 3, 2, 1. All right, we got wrestling, and then you don't get wrestling. You know what I'm saying? like when Gabe goes.
Oh, here comes Austin Theory.
Right. It's like, and doing the Vince promo still, right? Still doing the Vince stuff, still doing the formulaic nonsense promo. So when Gabe goes to SmackDown in Green Bay tomorrow, he'll notice how different he'll notice how different that show is from Raw. When he goes to the Resch Center, you're going, right?
I am not. I have a high school basketball game tomorrow night that I have to do. I've got a previous commitment. I apologize. I'm not driving up to the Resch Center.
Let me tell you something. Gabe Neitzel's had enough of WWE live events. He's had enough, everybody.
Again, no, the live events, I will go to a live event. Having to sit through Raw and all the commercials, it gets tough. Although, again, I will say under Triple H, I think it's gotten better where they have more matches that go through commercials, so it keeps the live audience a little bit more engaged. But, man, the last time I went to see Raw under Vince, that was tough.
Yeah, I do think there's less of Wrestler X comes out, commercial. Wrestler X still standing there awkwardly in the ring, and here comes the next wrestler. Like, there's less of that, which is nice.
Yeah, because, and again, it's tough to balance over the course of 3 hours. But I think that's like, in terms of changes, like that's the only change, right? Is trying to figure out a way to make those 3 hours more palatable. Because if you can find there, you do find it from time to time when, you're fast forwarding through because of DVR or whatever. There are good things that happen on Raw. There are fun matches that happen on Raw. There are good segments that happen on Raw. But there's also garbage that happens because you have to fill the 3 hours.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And Raw's had some tremendous moments over the years, but the thing that's missing, guys, is that pop. Like, who's that star that when he comes out, oh my God, I can't believe, just like it was in the Attitude Era. Mm-hmm. Like, I see poor Kevin Owens come out there, and I know what Kevin Owens is trying to do. He's very glib, and he's very good on the mic, and this whole thing with Sami Zayn, but it's very mild. It should be like, oh my God, here comes, he's not Austin, he's not Cena, but just the idea that this is a guy here that's at the front of the babyface line, and the crowd's just kind of like, yep, here comes Kevin Owens again. And that's a microcosm of Raw. Like, no one gets excited outside of Roman and the Bloodline coming out. After that, it just falls off the table.
Yep.
When's the last time you remember a Raw crowd being as hot as the crowd was in LA for AEW last night? Because that was a hot crowd.
It would have to be a Raw after Mania, but even that's had the wind taken out of it recently.
The last few, that is correct. Usually the Raw after Mania, and I know how that international crowd and people from all over the country just take it over. Because of what we've seen over the last year or two, that's not as wild. I mean, that thing made that crowd made Fandango.
Right. I mean, I feel like once it became cool and the WWE leaned into it, it's like, oh, Raw after Mania. It's like, no, like it's cool because you guys aren't acknowledging it. Like, and that's been years. Like maybe when Cass and Enzo, like, wasn't that a big Raw after Mania when they came up?
That's good. That's a good one. Yeah.
That was
and that's why I wondered. And that's why I think, I wondered, and it was before we had started here on GKW, I wondered if they would just save Cody for the Raw after Mania instead of actually debuting him at Mania, which they had just kind of teased too much to not do it at that point. But saving him for the Raw after Mania might have been something cool to happen and try to reinvigorate that. But again, it's also now tougher because I feel that crowd now going to a 2-night Mania. So you have Friday Night SmackDown, Mania on Saturday, Mania on Sunday. By the time Monday rolls around, it's pretty exhausting, right? Like it's been a lot of wrestling. So it's going to be tough for that Raw after Mania crowd to be as hot as it's been the last few years, just based on the scheduling changes that WWE has made.
Yeah, back in the day, you just go to NXT and then you take a flight and go home. Just go to the NXT. Just go to that show. Night, yes. When it was great. Like, that was better than Mania. That's what you do. You go to the NXT show, like, all right, I'm done with this. I'm not dealing with Mania.
What do we got at number 2 on the 3 count, Brian?
All right, we talked about AEW Dynamite in LA last night, and it was a pretty big return for Adam Cole, baby. First time back in 6 months after suffering a concussion and other injuries at Forbidden Door. So, guys, how would you fantasy book Adam Cole's return to AEW?
First of all, tip of the cap to them. I mean, I know everybody was hoping for Mercedes Moné last night, and like it didn't happen, and there were videos on Twitter where after that women's match, the lights went out and everybody thought it might be happening. And then the video board lights up and it's an advertisement for Rampage. So like, very disappointing. Crowd wasn't happy with that. That happened off TV, so you had to only be on social media for that one to see it play out. But I was very excited to see Adam Cole back, and he gave one hell of a promo. But before I fantasy book it, I was uncomfortable with the booking of Mox and Hangman in the lead up to it, right? Like, we don't have to, like, concussions happen. They're terrible. But to enter it into a storyline the way they did, to the point where he was even drinking NA beer to, like, subtly hints that, yeah, because alcohol is bad for concussions, like in a promo that he did leading up to this for Hangman, to then have that match end with Jon Moxley presumably concussed storyline wise. So now
he was asking what happened. He goes, "Oh, what happened? What happened?"
Yeah. So to have that be a part of the storyline, and I felt uncomfortable. And then in retrospect, I really felt uncomfortable after Adam Cole just poured his freaking heart out, man, and the issues that he dealt with his concussions and his shoulder, and like the issues that he dealt with, like couldn't drive in a car for 15 minutes, would vomit sometimes. That's how bad his concussions were. Like, I don't understand how you make light more or less of concussions in a storyline and then have Adam Cole follow that up. Like, that is beyond stupid. And maybe that's just me being too sensitive to concussions at this point, but like, holy crap. Like, how are you hitting me over the head that badly with concussion thing? And how are you not seeing why this is a bad idea?
And to that point, like, I think because it was literally segment break Cole, like, it wasn't like you forgot about the Moxley thing. Like, I think if it was spread out more, you know, we're prisoners of the moment. You could have forgotten, like, hey, yeah, Mox and Hangman was a great match. Don't really remember the concussion stuff. But we saw that, and then we heard the Adam Cole stuff. They're literally back to back. Like, that was definitely a miss on their part last night, and what I thought was a really good show.
You know, with WWE booking, you probably wouldn't have seen Hangman go over. It would have been some schmaz. It would have been some disqualification, whatever, right? But in AEW, you get clean finishes. And the clean finish was Hangman giving Moxley a receipt by saying, okay, you gave me a concussion, now I'm going to give you one. It was awkward for me. Like, I enjoyed the match. I just thought the finish was just, I just thought it was a little awkward because Jon Moxley very rarely loses clean. And the way he lost, you couldn't do that with a roll-up. Could do that with, you know, something else. No, they did it because they went concussion for concussion. And there's Hangman Page that's looking who was pissed off, walking backwards up the ramp with regret. And it's kind of like, okay, so where are you going with this? Where we're going with this is Moxley going on vacation finally. That's where we're going with this, okay?
There's easier ways to write them off, man. Like, just with what we know about concussions now, and I understand, like, feigning injury is a part of professional wrestling, right? Yeah. Like, you do it, you have the stretcher job and all that, you know, and you do all that. But with what we know about concussions, like, to fake them, to me, that's just not an area I want to go in 2023.
Yeah,
like, because of how serious we know they can be. Because then Adam Cole comes out and tells us how serious it can be.
Yes. Right, that's the thing. Like, your locker room, Cole, Bryan, Hangman, like, the top of your card has dealt with concussions and extended periods of time. So, like, it feels like you're almost spitting in the face of, like, temptation, where it's like, oh, what are we doing here? Like, it is very weird to have it in your face and still do that.
So if you're scoring at home, real concussion, fake concussion, real concussion with the promo with Adam Cole. That's exactly what we just saw there in back-to-back segments. As far as Adam Cole's concerned, let's talk about how this is all set up by the great Tony Schiavone. So he's up there and he says, well, I'm going to introduce someone I don't really want to talk to. I don't want to introduce this guy. And I'm thinking it's MJF the entire time. Mm-hmm. And it ends up being Adam Cole. And you figure, okay, that's the whole thing with Britt Baker. I get that. But it surprised me because I thought that was MJF coming out. Like, hey, here's a guy that I don't want to talk to, whatever, right? And it's Adam Cole. And it's like, wow, he's back. To the point where Excalibur on the broadcast said, that's funny. It says on my format, TBD. He didn't know it was going to be Adam Cole.
Right.
If you heard that in the broadcast, he's like, it says TBD on my sheet here, and it's Adam Cole. I'm so glad to see him, and he did a great babyface promo. I'm glad that he told us exactly what's going on with him. He made everyone emotional at the Kia Forum and also swerved everybody by saying, I got good news and bad news. And the bad news is that whole locker room is on notice, that gave a huge pop to people in Los Angeles. They love that. And so the booking for him, Browitz, would be something very, very, I would not put him on TV every week. Maybe the mistake they're making with Bryan Danielson, quite frankly. He would not be on TV every week. I would ease him in. He would be a strong contender for the TNT Championship because Kyle O'Reilly is not coming back anytime soon. Apparently, he's banged up really badly, so it's not going to be a tag team situation. It's going to be Cole solo. I think that he's in line for the TNT Championship. That's how I
giving up on Bobby Fish coming back, I guess. Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
All right, that's your business. I do think though with Cole, like the seeds were planted, we never got the payoff because of injuries of like elite and undisputed elite. I think there's still stuff there to work with. And I don't think we need Cole in any title picture at this point. I think you can build up like, hey, he's back. Let him be a sympathetic baby face to where he's taking losses, like a Miro out there. Like that could be the pay-per-view match. Let them go. He loses. Then he eventually joins back up with the Bucks because he's on this losing streak. And then he turns on them and we get Cole versus Kenny eventually. And you don't even need a title involved in that point. Like just lead up to this great wrestling, lead up to Adam Cole promos, and you can keep him away from really all titles at this point. Because I do think he's better as a heel, and heel Cole doesn't really mesh with an MJF world champion.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it depends. Yeah, it depends upon if they keep him babyface. Like they're gonna have to keep him babyface for a while after the promo he cut last night. He's just gonna be bad babyface. Adam Cole. It's the way it's got to be. And as long as he's babyface, he's on the short list of guys that could take the belt off of MJF. Now, granted, I don't see that happening until All Out. I don't see that happening in presumably Chicago on Labor Day. They've always had that event, and as MJF's contract is potentially going to be up in 2024, I don't think you want to wait until the last pay-per-view event of the year to potentially take it off of MJF, so I assume it would happen at All Out, but he would be on the short list, like because he would be, for a lack of a better comparison, I guess, I mean, be your new CM Punk. Like he's back, man. Like he is super proud. Now he's not going to draw the way CM Punk does, but he could be that baby face that is probably better as a heel, but everybody wants to cheer for right now because of his story.
Let's just be honest. Adam Cole is always been a baby face because he gets a crowd reaction. He's a cool heel, bro. That's
super
cool. What's a cool heel? It's a baby face.
Yeah, no, he's a 2022, 2023 heel. Like we talk about Roman, where like he's the top heel, but he's got a catchphrase that everyone's going to recite.
It's in the business. It's a character baby face. That's what it's called. That's exactly what he is. And so because he gets a reaction, he raises his arm, says Adam Cole, baby. Everyone says it, right? Uh-huh. So that's what he is. I just, we talk about him trying to get to the top of the card. I just, I groaned when I thought of the possibility that you guys mentioned of like Omega versus him. I was like, I don't know if he could take that kind of match. Seriously, well, like yeah. I'd be. I mean, him against even Danielson. I'm afraid. Seriously,
that's fair. But I mean, if he goes up against Omega, I don't think we're going to get New Japan Pro Wrestling physical Kenny Omega. Like it's not going to be strong style Kenny Omega.
Are you?
It's going to be more the AEW. I would assume.
I don't think that's true. I don't think. See, here's the thing that we have to realize about these AEW guys. These guys are indie guys. These guys are New Japan guys and AEW guys. They only know one gear. You don't see a soft WWE style in AEW. Everything's a hard clothesline. Everything is stiff. Everything. How about Danielson and Takeshita? I mean, like in WWE would say, "Oh, that's a nice match." In AEW, it's a match that's in top 10 of the year already. Yes. I mean, seriously, there is no let up in Kenny Omega. That's the whole thing with Adam Cole.
But there was a different gear inside the Tokyo Dome. Yeah. Like the physicality that him and Ospreay had was there was a different gear to that one versus what we've seen typically from Kenny on AEW.
I don't see that. Well, it was longer in New Japan. That's why. I mean, and it's Will Ospreay. You're trying to kick his ass. But I mean, what about these Omega matches against? What was it, like Jericho, Moxley, some of these other ones? Those things were very, very
well, you can't. I mean, Mox is an insane person, so of course it's going to be. Of course, that's going to be physical. Like,
I don't think that there's a second and third gear of these guys. I think it's just one gear, full stop. I'm going to run through you. That's how it works in AEW. It's not New Japan level, I would agree, but it's pretty physical.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm. yeah. It's yes. Gunther would fit in beautifully in AEW.
Oh my God, I would hope that Gunther Miro. Oh my God.
Ooh.
Oh my God.
We have to get Miro on TV first. That's
put that on a pay-per-view and just take my money.
Well, when Tony Khan owns WWE, we're going to get that.
Oh, okay, that's good.
That'll be on SmackDown.
Because main events, main events on Peacock. You can catch it on a Tuesday night.
Because all the best matches are on TV.
Number 3, Brian.
All right. Also last night on Dynamite, the Elite knocked off Death Triangle in a ladder match to win the Best of 7 series 4-3 and reclaim their trios titles. Guys, did the Best of 7 series deliver?
I think it did. They came up with different creative ways, like the offense that they had on the ladders last night was fantastic. The way that they used the ladder. I mean, even the way the match started, they were creative in some of the different ways they would, you're expecting somebody to jump out and kick, the ladder, but they move the ladder so the guy comes out and then they're able to run Kenny over with it. And they just had enough little swerves within the match to kind of make it a little bit different. All 7 matches ended up being entertaining. Now, I think the wrong team won. I still don't know how I feel about the Bucks and Omega. But I think the wrong team won, but that doesn't mean the matches weren't entertaining. So I think the matches certainly delivered.
You know what? You are correct as usual. Because Gabe, if we saw the Death Triangle win that match, people will still be cheering. It's Los Angeles. That crowd was hot all night. If Death Triangle won, the crowd would have been hot for Death Triangle to win that championship. Now, we all kind of knew the Elite was going to win because the Bucks are from Rancho Cucamonga. They're from California, so we get that. But if Death Triangle would have won, I would have been fine with that. I want to point out something I noticed yesterday. So I'm watching the show, and I said, when's this main event coming out? It's coming out at 8:46 Central. I'm like, ooh, we got to rush through this. This is not going to be 25 minutes. And there was like 2 minutes of an overrun. But well, let me tell you something. What's so impressive about match 7 for me, bro, is that they had limited time and they rushed through everything, but they hit everything. They hit everything because it's like, I'm sure in the back they're like, okay, guys, you got 13 minutes. What? Yeah, you got 13 minutes. Okay, we're gonna get all our spots in, our crazy ladder spots and everything else. They're like,
guys, you know that guy from Community who's super annoying? Like that, MJF had to make fun of him. Like MJF had to roast him. He took a couple minutes away from you because he had to go after Ken Jeong. So now you guys have less time.
I mean, seriously, so that's what impressed me. They hit everything in a short amount of time. That should have been 25 minutes. It was down to less than 15, I think.
So for me, like, them delivering in 7 matches is not at all surprising. Like, we knew that was going to happen when you get those 6 in the ring, any combination, any way you do it. To me, the only reason I say no is really goes back to how it started. Like, I feel like the way they brought back the Bucks was sort of wasted, where it wasn't that surprise pop. It was just sort of like, hey, they're wrestling this weekend. So that was weird. And then also the fact that you took the legs out of that first match. Like, them losing, the Bucks and Kenny losing at their return was a legit shock. And I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming. Great decision. And then later that night, they're like, oh, actually, we're going to do 6 more of these. Like, that just sort of took the legs out. And now, like, yeah, it feels like Kenny is sort of wasted doing the trios titles because you're just going to put down other people. Like, to me, give it to House of Black, let them get a run. But ultimately, like, they're probably going to get squashed by this also.
Boy, if this was in a barn in Orlando, you would have loved this Best of 7.
The matches were good. I enjoyed the matches.
No, you said it didn't deliver though. And this was PWG, boy. You would have loved it. Oh my God!
Battle of Los Angeles. Oh man!
Shout out to Jericho for his Bola appearance. Great job in there. That delivered.
Boy, Brian.
I mean, magic at Bola.
I'm so sorry this Best of 7 didn't take place in front of 300 people in a sweaty gym. Sorry.
The fans were too far from the ring. That's why he didn't deliver. They need to be on the ring, no guardrails.
It's unbelievable.
We want to get out to Mania for this show. Brian already thinks we missed Mania because he missed the Battle for Los Angeles and the couple intergender match between Jordy and Grace and Jonathan Gresham. Like, he's really disappointed he couldn't see that one.
Accurate. Yep.
Yeah, nothing like wrestling your wife, because that's good. That's good TV. That's good matches right there. It's unbelievable. You just can't please Broets. It's crazy.
No.
Best of 7. They busted their ass for 7 matches.
They did a great job.
And one of those. And by the way, I know you. When we do our end of the year show, our award show, one of those 7 is going to make it as next year. One of them is going to make. When you go back in retrospect, you're going to say, "Yeah, guys, I think match 5 is good." Like, you're going to do that. You're going to do that. And
no, the match is delivered. I just feel storyline wise, it was missing something. Like, it was a creative way to get them the belts back, but I don't think it was necessary.
Oh my God! All 6 guys, including Ray Phoenix, one of Gabe's guys, and you shit on it.
I mean, best wrestler in the world. You can say it.
Unbelievable. And Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega, what did Don Callis say? Like 17, 18 hour flight
jet lag.
The lag from Japan. He's out there. He impressed me more than anybody. I'm like, didn't you just go through the meat grinder in Japan? Holy cow.
Yes, he did.
He
absolutely did.
That's a worker right there, pal. That's a worker. Yeah. He was so impressive to me. I'm like, why are you doing all these things? you just go through everything? And then is it Matt Jackson? Was it Matt Jackson that got had that spot on the ladder? That was unbelievable. Yeah. That spot on the ladder where his legs.
I think it was Nick. Yeah.
Nick Jackson.
Yeah.
His legs springboard off of the ladder. I don't know how his hip, his ass, and his legs are still attached after that move.
Oh, he's right underneath his ass is going to be bruised for a month, at least. Yeah. Oh, that just looked like the way it was brutal, but they put themselves through it. Again, I don't think the right team won. I stand by that, but the match was delivered. They were wildly entertaining. I was just a little disappointed that was Kenny Omega who was the one pulling that championship belt off. I thought it would have been more entertaining. I think you have better stories to potentially tell going forward with the Death Triangle than you do. Like the Elite and Kenny are at their points where you can tell so many different stories with them. Mm-hmm. Like I don't want them, because the problem is you're probably going to tell a bunch of different stories, especially with Adam Cole back. Like you're probably going to tell a bunch of stories, and you created these trios titles, and now much like the WWE with their women's tag team titles, they're probably just going to get more or less ignored as you tell different stories that involve the people who happen to hold those championships.
Yeah, that's historic in wrestling, by the way. You give somebody the 6-man tag team championships, and it's kind of like, well, are they going to defend them? Nah, they just have them.
Right.
Like we go to the Von Erichs had them and the Freebirds had them, but it wasn't like they were out there every week defending them. It's just kind of like, yeah, we got them. And actually, when I was growing up, guys, the 6-man tag team championships was a bowling trophy. Seriously. I want to say
we should go back to that. Can you imagine a bowling trophy hanging from the Kia Forum last night? And that's what Kenny's climbing the ladder to try to desperately get to. We should go back to that.
I think that was in world class, as a matter of fact. I don't think they had like championships because the territories couldn't afford, like, you mean I got to get 3 belts for these guys? I got to get 3 belts. How about a bowling trophy? And so it'd just be like Michael Hayes holding up like a trophy. We're the 6-man tag team champions. Well, who holds the championship? Does Terry take it home? Does Buddy Roberts take it home? It was weird times. But they couldn't afford like 3 championships like AEW. It was like, you're the champions, Von Erichs. Here's your bowling trophy. It was. That's the way they did it.
That's awesome.
What do we have in the news and notes section this week, Brian? Seriously, they should go back to that. I wish they would.
The bowling trophy.
Ode to history. Much like the white-strapped Intercontinental Championship. Ode to history. Go back to the bowling trophy for the Trios champions.
You guys mentioned WrestleMania weekend announced last night that in LA, Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor will take place Friday, March 31st, 4 o'clock Pacific in LA. It'll be on the campus of USC. Just for scheduling standpoint, SmackDown and the Hall of Fame ceremony also going on that night at the Crypto.com arena.
Not shocking. I mean, this is something ROH has done for years, right? So I think you stay consistent with that and people come to expect it and you roll with me. This is what a lot of these promotions do. They put up events around WrestleMania and it's a part of the week.
Bro, I'm not prepared for this. I was wondering how many seats does the Galen Center hold, the campus USC?
I do not know, but they've been running small venues. I mean, there's going to be people there because it was announced also this week that WrestleMania has already set the gate record. The previous record was 17.3 million at AT&T. So there are going to be wrestling fans in LA.
Oh, sure. No, I was just wondering for Ring of Honor, like, I'm sure there's going to be wrestling fans looking as always for WrestleMania weekend. You're looking for shows, independent shows. I was just wondering how many this arena holds. I'm sure
Google says a little over 10,000.
So they'll set it up for like 6.
Yeah,
and they'll be fine. But Gabe hit it on the head. This is what ROH has done for a long time. I know people are like, "Oh, AEW doesn't usually follow it with WWE." It's different.
right.
Now, here's the thing, though. Do not be surprised in this card if this is filled with AEW guys on this ROH card. It wouldn't surprise me, but this would be the first time that Tony Khan has followed behind the WWE for their WrestleMania show. And they'll sell out just like a lot of other venues around the LA area for WrestleMania weekend.
Well, the weird part is, remember last year they ran Dallas, and Tony's thing was like, "Oh, that was already booked when I bought Ring of Honor. That's why we're doing it." And that was the one where the Bucks, did the run-in after the Briscoes and FTR match. So it's sort of your point there.
Yeah. So I good for them. I'm sure that'll be on the stream, right? The stream that, again, we still don't know when it's gonna. I thought we were supposed to have more information about this. Apparently not.
No, we're still waiting on that, and it might be on the stream, but you'll have to pay additional to actually watch it on the stream. So remember that part. Some free agency news. Fightful reporting that Jay White's New Japan deal is set to end soon, quote unquote. He does want to work in the U.S. Also, the WWE reportedly interested in Hikuleo and Tama Tonga. Jay White and Hikuleo supposed to have a loser leaves town match in New Japan over the next couple months.
I would assume that WWE is no longer interested.
Because of Vince.
Because of Vince, right? Like, I'm assuming Vince ain't going to be interested in those guys.
Yeah.
He wants his big boys. Vince is back in charge. You guess where you're not going, Jay White?
Hey, Vince, I got this guy from Japan, Jay White. Really? Put him in NXT. Jay White, NXT? What? What? Well, can he work TV? Yeah, he was in Impact. I said, can he work TV? So
main evented the Tokyo Dome. I think he's doing all right for himself.
That's Japan, pal. Put him in NXT. Put him on Tuesday nights. I mean, could you imagine, really? Like, he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. And, yeah, that would not surprise me. Hikuleo's a big boy, though.
Yes, he is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Vince would love him. Him against Almost at WrestleMania.
Moving on to non-Vince guys. Johnny Gargano this week suffered a shoulder injury at a house show. Doctors say 5 to 6 weeks. He says he's shooting for the Rumble, trying to get back for that.
Yeah, I mean, he's got, when we talked to him last year, I mean, he's got things he wants to check off. The Rumble, he wants to wrestle at WrestleMania. He wants to go after that Intercontinental Championship at some point. Like, he's got goals, and I don't blame him. I think if he, depending upon how serious the injury is, I think you could be able to work around a shoulder injury like the Rumble, where you're not in there for very long. Maybe you eliminate a guy or two and then get out. But again, it all depends upon if Vince is running things by the time we get to the Rumble in a couple of weeks, right? Like, well, if Vince is running things, I don't think little old Johnny Gargano is going to be in the Rumble.
Johnny Gargano, you're back. Get out. And your wife.
He says wrestling too much. He's Johnny wrestling. He's got baby wrestling. Like, he says the word wrestling too much for Vince.
Knocking on wood for Johnny Gargano. Yeah, absolutely. His goal is to be back in the WWE. I know it's been kind of a start-stop for him. We've kind of ridiculed the storyline he was in with The Miz, but we know he's a great worker. And the other thing, Triple H knows he's a great worker. I mean, those were must-see matches that he had with Tommaso Ciampa. Those are must-see matches for NXT. We know he can work. Hopefully, he'll be able to get back healthy and to help the company.
And finally, a news and note just for Jay Hood. Impact has announced their Hard to Kill pay-per-view, which takes place tomorrow night on Fight TV. A sellout from the center stage in Atlanta. The main event, Josh Alexander defends the Impact title against Bully Ray in a Full Metal Mayhem match. No idea what that is. Also, Jordan Grace takes on Mickey James. That'll be title versus career in that match.
I love it. So this is Center Stage, the home of WCW Saturday Night with Jim Ross and Larry Zbyszko. This is fantastic. Fantastic. A sellout. 200. You know what that sellout is, Gabe Neitzel? That sellout is you going to a movie premiere and it's a 200-seat theater. That's where they're going to be wrestling. I mean, God bless Center Stage. I mean, it is a spot in Atlanta, right? It's historic only in this regard. WCW used to run their TV there. Okay, great. But the idea that they're claiming sellout, like, yeah, I guess so.
So what you're telling me is there's going to be a movie theater in Atlanta in a couple of weeks when Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania comes out. They're going to theaters and people going to see that. There are just for this one show.
It's sold out. My God.
Based on my Googling, Bound for Glory, October of 2021, the last pay-per-view they sold out. So, step in the right direction. Also, I just checked on Fight up $40 for that pay-per-view. So, I'm going to
hold on. So, Bound for Glory is sold out. Louisville?
In 2021.
Louisville? Where was that?
I don't know where that was. That was the last thing I could find of an Impact sellout.
If it was a sellout, it's probably in that same dungeon that they do their TV in. Where Bobby Fish says, "Where's the lie? Lie! Lie! Lie!" Hello.
It was in Nevada at Sam's Town Hotel and Gambling Hall.
Oh, at the bar.
Gambling hall.
At the bar. That's what that was. I've seen that before. You know what?
Yosemite Sam. I didn't know he had a gambling hall in Vegas. Good for him.
That's at a bar. That's not an arena. Oh my God!
He got 2-for-1 specials during the pre-show. It was great.
According to Google, at Sam's, the theater holds 1,200.
What holds 1,200? What?
Sam's Town in Nevada.
Oh my God, that's so ridiculous.
So you're not watching tomorrow? 24 hours from now. Mark your calendar.
I will not be watching that, but I will tell you what a legit sellout is. For those watching on ESPN Los Angeles or listening on the podcast, congratulations to you, because you guys were a great crowd for AEW Dynamite 1. But 2, did you guys heard like something? It's strange. First of all, it's a great crowd because it started at 4:30 Pacific.
Yes.
Right? So it's 4:30 Pacific, and it's like then the show starts at 5 Pacific, and it was loud and ready to go, coming off of work or all the crazy traffic in LA, but yet they were in their seats ready to go. But the other thing is too, they had the biggest walk up in the history of the of the company. The gate was over $700,000 for last night's show. That's for awesome. AEW Dynamite. Yeah. So LA is hot for it because, and this is what happens. You don't flood the market. You don't keep coming every quarter. They were waiting for it. Just like Seattle's was hot. Portland was hot. So if you've never been there before, it's like, oh, AEW's in town. Oh, let me check it out. But again, it's not like us, Eastern time zone, 2 Central time zone. Oh, we'll roll in at 7 o'clock, 6:30, 4:30.
Right.
4:30 Pacific.
With LA traffic.
They're ready to rock.
Yeah, with LA traffic and hot. I love that. So congratulations to LA. That was a great job by you guys.
TV-wise, by 967,000, the number last night for Dynamite.
Oh,
all right.
So up from last week, from a bad number last week.
That's true. But NXT keeps inching closer.
Yeah.
That's
they have what, 700?
700 even for NXT, yeah.
Oh boy, a little too close, a little bit too close for comfort. I'll tell you that.
What did you guys have for match of the week?
I mean, for me, I'm going to Dynamite. You got to go to the main event, right? No, I'm going. Brian versus Takeshita was so damn good. Like, I am on board for anything we're doing with Brian for the next month and a half. Him versus Bandito next week. I feel like I can already pencil that in for match of the week. And also from last night, I really enjoyed the women's tag match. I know the Mercedes stuff might have overshadowed a little bit. They tried to tell you, hey, she's not coming. But obviously it's wrestling, so we don't believe them. But I thought that was a pretty good tag team match. Saraya and Toni Storm versus Britt and Jamie Hayter.
We should talk about that just very briefly. AEW did not say that Mercedes Moné was coming. They didn't say it. However, Britt Baker did give the wink and the nod in the camera, and mention the boss. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So, okay, but AEW didn't say it. So, but I also, the promoter and Tony Khan, who's on weekly on Busted Open, and it does all these media outlets, could have easily said, like Triple H said, we really like the talent and we love to have a negotiation, all that, right? But the anticipation of, she's coming out, you know what that did? That shit on Tony Storm, and that's not right. That's not right. Tony Storm comes out there and she just was looking incredulous when she came out there. You notice she didn't smile. She didn't do all her little history on. So
she's put in a no-win situation.
Well, she gets booed because the AEW didn't shut it down. Maybe Mercedes Moné, maybe she'll be out. That's not right. They did Tony Storm dirty. That's a bad job by Tony Khan.
And the more I think about that, like if Mercedes Moné comes to AEW, it's probably not going to be until after that show. Like, there's no way that New Japan and Pro Wrestling is going to pay whatever fee they've paid for Mercedes and not have her first match be for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like, so if she shows up in AEW, to me, it's not until after she has her match against Kyrie in San Jose.
Again, they didn't say that she was coming, but they intimated because of that promo. Yeah, unless they thought at the 11th hour she's coming. Okay, now she's not going to come. Well, that promo is regrettable that Britt Baker did.
But even the other little nuggets they're driving about, like the way they did stuff with Shida, where like the way she's turning to Tony, it's like, okay, like there's the obvious writing as wrestling fans, like, okay, Shida's going to take out Tony Storm, so Saray's still going to need a partner. Like, they gave you all the breadcrumbs to lead up to it, and then it's like, but I think that speaks to the talent of the four of them. Like, they won the crowd over. Like, halfway through that match, the crowd was in it. Jamie Hayter is over. Like, that speaks to how good of a match that was. Despite all that, they won everyone over, and it wasn't just, 10 minutes of the crowd chanting for Mercedes.
And it was Saraya's best match.
Yep.
It was the best match. It's her best match. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah. I think she's going to be like CM Punk. Like, that first CM Punk match that he had with Darby was like, he took some shots because, Darby's a man and just throws his body around with reckless abandon. But like Punk, because he was gone for so long, like it took him a little bit of time to start putting on good matches before he finally had the dog collar match with MJF, which might have been his best match in AEW. Like, to me, the more we see Saraya, the better she's going to get. Like, she's got it. We know she's got it. But it's one of those things you got to do. Like, you got to be able to get in the ring and be able to wrestle. And the more she does that, the better it's going to get.
Yeah, Britt Baker put a boot in her mouth, though. It's right to the face. It's not your house. Nice saying from like 2004. It's not your house, but thank you. Real quick, the match of the week. I agree with bro. It's Takeshita and Danielson was a banger. That was the best match to me on Dynamite in Los Angeles. I liked how Judgment Day were able to work. They worked strong. Clearly, WWE want the Judgment Day to be strong. They went through the gauntlet. Good for them. I liked what they did there. It's a good story because clearly Triple H is saying, okay, let's push this faction even more so. So they went through the gauntlet. I thought that was cool on Raw. And I want to say that Battle of the Belts, which I enjoyed, Cassidy against what am I looking at?
Kip
Sabian. I thought that was a better match than I thought it was going to be. Quite frankly, I thought it was better. I was better than I thought. And my apologies to Jade Cargill. That was her best match, also in Battle of the Belts. If you guys watched that against Sky Blue. Sky Blue took her to the limit, and I kept saying, when is Jade going to sell? When is Jade going to be in peril? She was. Yep. So even though I ridiculed that at the end of the show last week, they actually had a really nice show. And Battle of the Belts was not too bad, actually, in Portland.
Especially once you got Jeff Jarrett out of the way.
Well, yeah, once you got that. And by the way, is that done now? So 2 matches. Is that done?
Please. He did not appear on my television last night.
That is true.
I was very, very happy. So glad that Jeff Jarrett was not on my television last night.
So those are my matches of the week.
Yeah. So again, I agree with you guys. Takeshita, Danielson, banger. I did enjoy the opening match, like especially the way that Hangman came right, sold the bad blood, right? So you didn't do the typical tie up. No, they went right after each other. It was a physical match. I hated the ending, and not like the Hangman winning part, like everything else that happened after that. Like I enjoyed the match up until they pretended that Mox had a concussion, which was not great. I did enjoy the main event of SmackDown last week, the tag match with Drew McIntyre and Sheamus. That was a good physical match with the Usos. The Usos obviously ended up winning. But no, Battle of the Belts, like as much as we make fun of it because of like it being, Rampage 2.0, like just
it's 11 p.m. Eastern on our Friday. That's why we make fun of it.
Yeah. I mean, despite its time slot, Kip Sabian is one of those guys that is just going to be he's just going to kind of hang around AEW, but like show up on a Rampage and just have a pretty good match with someone. Like that's just the way I think Kip Sabian is going to operate in AEW on Friday nights, because you're not really going to ever see him on Wednesdays. But hey, good for him. Again, it was a fun match between him and Orange Cassidy, who, by the way, Orange Cassidy as the All-Atlantic champion has been much better than I ever thought it would be. Like, I think they've done a really good job of him carrying that thing around in the backpack, like just taking any and all challengers. Like, Orange Cassidy he's been killing it as the All-Atlantic champion. I had my doubts about it. I didn't think it could be a fun title reign. It absolutely has been a fun title reign.
And also just a note to sort of piggyback off Orange Cassidy. Shout out to Danhausen with the New York Times feature this week.
There's a New York Times feature on Danhausen?
Uh-huh.
Well, he's the number one merch seller on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Yep. On the day the Vince stuff was going down and the Stephanie stuff, the New York Times had a long form article on Danhausen. Shout out to Danhausen, making that moneyhausen. Hi, J Hood.
Oh my God!
Apparently, J Hood's had enough.
That guy's in no matches. He's just there, just as a jerk on promos. Like he's not doing anything.
He had an interaction with the Golden Globe Award winner last night. That's a big spot for him.
New York Times feature.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll send you the link. We'll tweet out the link. Everyone wants to read it.
Tweet out the link. Is that what you're just? I don't want our listeners to check that link out. What a guy with face paint and putting curses on people is not over with me. He doesn't even wrestle.
He's over with the rest of the world. Again, he was the number one T-shirt seller on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Yep.
God almighty.
Although I'm with you. Like in the year of our Lord 2023, I did not expect the New York Times to be doing a feature on Danhausen. Didn't see that one coming, but Browitz is right. It is out there.
I mean,
I'm glad we got to end.
Put the strap on him if he's going to be that big. God, put the title on him. Jeez.
I mean, it's probably how the Orange Cassidy title reign ends. He probably turns on Orange Cassidy, becomes the All-Atlantic champ.
Okay.
Okay, J Hood's out. I'm glad we got to have fun at the end of the show, because at the beginning of the show was a little, I'm sure we'll have to talk more about that, because that story's just going to keep going with Vince and everything in WWE. We'll have plenty of things to talk about, and I guess Browitz isn't going to get whatever the Impact pay-per-view is, so he won't be able to review it. Again, I don't blame him. $40? What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Come on.
I spent money on the Mania weekend one. I still haven't finished that one, so I need to get to that. So, otherwise I would have.
Oh, man. Wait. All right. Real quick, who goes over? Josh Alexander or Bully? Because I've seen the build-up on Instagram. I've seen this and just kind of like it's Bully being Bully. If he wins the championship, what does that do for Impact? If anything?
No, it's Josh Alexander, you assume.
Yeah.
It's Josh Alexander, and it is Mickie James retiring. I think that's what happens.
Okay.
I think that's the end for her.
She's had a hell of a career. If it ends up being that, like, as much as we make fun of Impact, she has had a hell of a career, and I'm sure that would be something that we give a tip to the cap to her next week, if indeed it ends up being her retirement match tomorrow night. Make sure you tune in next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Always, you can download us wherever you get your podcasts with Good Karma Wrestling. Follow us on Twitter at GKW_wrestling. We'll be back next Thursday with